Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another special episode of Two Tutors Talking. I am your lovely host, Audrey Codner. And yes, we're just coming in for a little bit. Things happen. I have like World War III going outside my house. Everybody wants to put a new roof on all of a sudden. Makes me a little curious that if maybe I should put a roof on. Why not? So I just want to basically to introduce you to another great tutor that is doing so many great things in her community as well as outside. And maybe if you're a parent, you may need her assistance as soon as possible. So I would love to introduce you to Miss Denecia Gulley. Hello, Miss Denecia. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Audrey? Thank you for having me this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem. It's always a joy to hear because now a lot of people are so used to seeing me doing tutoring with math tutors, but now, oh, your girl is branching out to a little bit of English, a little bit of reading. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been in education over 20 years, and I actually have been in the school system for that long as well. Love what I do, and I decided to step out of the classroom and to work with students one on one. And so it all started in the school system, working with in my classroom and with kindergartners. And I had written this vision in 2007. And so I decided to branch out and work with the students one on one after um, seeing how the students are being left behind in the classroom. And so all of them are reading on different grade levels. And so, although I was really fortunate to be able to ensure that my students were reading, although they were reading on different grade levels, different levels, reading levels, I was able to just decide, you know what, I'm going to step out and work with these kids one on one. And I began tutoring them. And so I would go and meet with them and assist them. And actually, my principal at the school where I was before branching out and leaving the school system, actually, I was tutoring. She came to me and asked me to tutor her grandson. And so she stated to me, why don't you just start tutoring your students? I see how well they're reading. At the time, I was teaching kindergarten. And I said, no, not remembering that I had written this in 2007. And so, with that being said, I did say, you know what, I'm going to start tutoring. I wasn't charging anything. That's just something that I did. I was tutoring with my kindergarten students after school during lunch or whatever. And so, after that, I prayed about it and decided, and was given the answer, you know what, just start your business. And so, I came across the business plan that I had written and decided to do that. And I said, okay, I'm going to move forward. And I started doing that, meeting with the kids again at the library. I was meeting with them in coffee shops and various places. Then branched out, got an office, the pandemic hit, and I said, okay, what's next? And so I decided to teach virtual. And at that time, I was using Skype. And then I look and see, okay, now everyone is doing this. Maybe this would be beneficial for me. And to this day, I'm still teaching my students reading virtual. So I've been teaching reading for quite some time. So I really enjoy it, making a difference, and want kids to love to read. So,
Yes,
yes.
love that because that whole progression, all it took was just one person.
Yeah.
And then you worked with that one person, and then all it took was a little inspiration. Even you put into fruition, you wrote it down like this is what's going to happen, and then that transition, and then you put it into action. So that speaks volumes about not only your business but also as you as an educator. So I this is why you're here. And I appreciate you so
Thank
much.
you.
So for people that are watching, okay, if you are watching, go ahead and hit hashtag live if you're watching it live, or hashtag replay if you're watching replay, because it helps with the algorithm. So we're going to take a little step further. So you've been tutoring, especially for reading, for a long period of time.
Mhm.
So my thing is, what are some of the things that you're noticing from like the different types of clients that's coming to you, what are you noticing in your sessions?
One thing I'm noticing is that my students, they have no idea of, some of them have no idea that letters make words and sounds. And
Mm.
so there, I have a new student that actually joined me last Tuesday, and she has no understanding that letters make different sounds, letters make words. So for an example, if I ask a student to say a letter or say a sound, they're going to say the letter T instead of saying the sound of T. So then I
Mm.
have to explain to them that, and I'll write it on my board, the letter T, this is what it is. However, it also makes a sound. So T makes the T sound, like in tiger or turtle. So that's something that I'm noticing, that they don't recognize that letters make both sounds and words. So that is one thing that I'm noticing. Yes.
So, if anything, because this is a math person trying to get into the reading world, have you noticed like there's also a difference maybe in different areas? Because I know in Baltimore, like if we say hot dog, it's not hot dog, it's like hot dog. Like if you're from the area. So it's like almost like a little culture thing. Like, have you noticed that there's always like a battle with that culture thing and with their reading and their sounds?
Well, I haven't noticed it as being a battle. However, I'm from up north, and I'm south now. And so I notice up north we say doll. Down here they saying doll. And one of my students said, Miss D, you're not saying that correct. It's doll. And I began to laugh. So I do notice, and up north we say the, down here they're saying the, but some of my students say the as well. So the culture does make a difference in how they're pronouncing the words. However, the concept of understanding letters make sounds stays the same.
Exactly.
Although, because D is going to say D, but the words may be different. And
Hmm.
I totally agree. How we pronounce words are different. I believe it's the word pizza. I believe somewhere in Wisconsin, they say pizza totally different. So the words that we speak, absolutely, we say different depending on where we are, regional.
Hmm.
But far as the sounds of letters, they are the same.
Right. And especially when they're growing up, depending on the households, like say different kinds of drinks. Like prime example, okay, I have a Gatorade. And let's say it was a red Gatorade. And mostly we know that the red is usually like cherry flavor or something.
Mhm.
And they'll be like, okay, what Gatorade do you want? And instead of saying the flavor, they always say the color. I want red. I was like, all right, what flavor Gatorade do you want? Red. Like, red's not a flavor, but they're so used to because they probably see it with their older siblings or maybe their friends or something like that. So that's why sometimes I feel like when they're developing, especially when they're younger, they take in so much from their environment. But then when we're sitting here trying to put words and letters and sounds, it just seems like, why are you saying that? It's red. And you're like, no, it's cherry. And like, no, it's red.
Yeah.
Do you experience any of that as well?
That's a good example. And so, with that being said, I do teach my students different things. Um, for an example, if they did say the color blue of a juice, actually, the other day I had a student, and so he was drinking a juice. It's funny you say that. It was just Tuesday. He was drinking a juice, and the juice was purple. So I said, "What type of juice are you drinking?" "Oh, purple." I said, "But what's the flavor?" He says purple. And
Purple.
so he said to me, "Don't you hear me? It's purple." I said, "Well, purple usually or generally will have the flavor grape." "Oh, well, yeah, I guess it is grape, but it's not green." So he's seeing a grape being green, but the flavor. So I had to explain, usually the color purple juice is a grape flavor. So it's funny that you brought that up, because just Tuesday I had that student, so I do help try to explain to them, the different things, such as, a grape flavor, or trying to get them to think different and
Mhm.
understand why things and words are pronounced and said the way that they are. I'm really trying to think of another example. Maybe it'll come back to me because, yeah, I've experienced that. And I'm just trying to think of an example. But yes, that juice was one example just this Tuesday.
Right. And then also just thinking about the different levels of reading, because we all know we have to get that foundational piece before we can do anything else.
Mhm.
And what ages are kids usually coming to you?
Well, usually they're coming to me at the age of 5,
Okay.
6, those primary elementary grades. And
Okay.
as you mentioned, that foundation is extremely important. For an example, if I have some kids that are in the 4th grade and they're reading at a lower level, and
Mhm.
that's because they didn't get those foundational skills. It's not that they can't read, and that's one thing that I don't, and I do stress that with my parents, because they're calling and say, "Oh, my child can't read." No, your child can read. They can
Yes.
read.
Yes.
However, they just read at a different level. If
Mhm.
your child see words and can say a word, that's reading. So now we're going to teach them how to read words in a sentence, how to say the words correctly. But when it comes to the lower levels, it is that foundational skill that they did not get. So now we're trying to play catch up with those older kids and take them back to the foundational reading skills, which is very, very important in reading. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then one other thing, what I see, especially a lot of my friends, I do not have children, so I'm like living vicariously through them.
Mhm.
Um, but I noticed that a lot of parents from various age, various backgrounds, they're starting to do. When I grew up, we had like PBS, so we had Sesame Street, and of course Sesame Street's still around, but we didn't have the videos. We didn't have as many movies and as many, and I'm starting to see various and more diverse, representation when it comes to a lot of those TV educational videos, which is great. But a lot of people think that let me just sit my child in front of a video and that's it. They'll catch learning as they go.
Mhm.
What do you think one thing that maybe a parent could do to kind of help with their skills? What's like at least one thing? But if there's more than one, go ahead and take it.
The one thing that you can help read with your child, sit down and read books with them, read a bedtime story, model that reading, help them to understand how reading goes. And although they're looking at the videos, we have to apply it. We need to reinforce, just like they go to school. And I've had a couple of parents say, I thought that I left the learning of reading in up to the school. I get it, but it has to be reinforced. You have to bring that child home. You have to read with that child. Sit down with those words. I, cat. Sit down with those letters and show them. A. What's the sound of A? A as in ape. A as in apple. A, I. So we have to sit down and actually hands on, that engaging, not just the videos, not just the phone. We have to go back old school. I don't call it old school. It's the way it is. You
Right.
have to still sit down with your child and assist them with reading. The videos
Yes.
are not going to be enough.
Right. And I feel exactly the same way, like towards math. It's just a matter of having like items, which you can easily get at any store. You can do marbles, you can do rice, you can do corn, like kernels of corn, and you can show representation. I know my former mother-in-law, she used to do Montessori. So she did a lot with beadwork, and they did a lot with, putting things into cups, and just to show that representation, like this is one, this is two. And a lot of those things need to happen. But just like you said, we are thinking that, okay, you're going to school or you're going to pre K, but a lot of the learning has to happen before pre-K.
Yes.
So a lot of that is even happening before nursing school. So or nursery school. So it's like I know it's time consuming because a lot of people are like, oh, well, this is my 8th time watching this video. And I don't know how many times more can I watch it or how many times more can I break this stuff down, but it seems to be important. What's your thoughts?
I agree. And you said something time consuming. I tell my parents, I get it. I understand being a single parent, you're working, even if it's a 2-parent home, I get it. But I also tell them, we're going to be creative. While you're cooking dinner, hot, hot, hot. As you're cooking, show them bread. What's the beginning sound of bread? Bread. We have to be creative. When you go to the grocery store, get the sales paper, have them to look at the sales paper. As you're walking down, the can, where the canned goods are. Where are we? What do we call this? A can? What's the beginning sound you hear in can? What's the middle sound? Ah. So as you're driving, what am I driving? A car. What's the beginning sound of car? When they go to the restaurant, have them to look at the menu. Instead of you reading the menu to them, have them to look at the menu. I mean, and I get it. We live in a fast moving world. Everything is go, go, go. But at the end of the day, we have to realize we have to help these kids and get them where they need to be in math and reading. So we have to be creative. I understand. I was there. But I had to be creative so that my children would be successful. And this is what we have to do because this is their lives. They're not going to be in our homes forever. And what are they going to do if they don't have those reading and math skills? Because it is important today. It is so that they're able to compete with their peers globally.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it
we have
helps
to
with
be creative.
and it helps with their imagination too.
It does.
Because those books usually, you want your child to basically eventually write their own book. And if we're starting to see a lot of kids writing their own kid stories, and that's happening, and they're making, if you want to say, they're making some money.
Yeah.
So, there's no shame with that. But by having the foundational pieces of reading, now you're introducing them to other books. And now you're getting their inspiration and you're getting their creativity going. So it's not just what someone else's creation was. Now they're forming their own creativity and now they can start making connections and that's how they grow. And we want them to be independent learners. So
and I like I'm sorry, go ahead, Audrey.
No, go ahead. Go.
I like what you said, imagination. Because I noticed when you asked me, what do I notice? That's something else that I noticed. Our kids have no imagination. We used to imagine as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
We used to see ourselves do. They have no imagination. They don't dream and think about things. And I try to get them, even when we're reading stories, because I allow my students to choose their books when we're reading. Okay. Put yourself in the story. What's going on? Visualize. I want you to feel what you're reading. And they don't have that imagination. But if we introduce them to books and reading to them, and when I say reading to them, reading with excitement, role play. I had one of my parents last year or a couple of years ago. She had taken my advice and she was saying she was so dramatic in her reading and how her daughter got so dramatic. But that's what we want, because if we're dramatic and showing our interest in the story, then they will want to look. They would love to read, as my company says. They would love to read, and even if they don't love it, at least get them to like reading. I have one kid that's been with me 3 years, and now he's in the 6th grade. He despised reading. He came to my office at that time with his mom and dad. He was kicking and I don't like reading, and they make fun of me, and I had a teacher throw my paper in the garbage. But today, that kid loves reading. But I had to build up his confidence. I worked with him, and now he enjoys reading. He wants to jump out there and he'll say, Miss D, can I read? Are we reading today? So I noticed that about my students. Those that have come to me from the beginning and did not like reading, Now, last night, my two girls, Miss D, are we going to read? Are we going to read? And this baby, she was not reading. She didn't know sounds. She didn't know her letters. Now she knows. She didn't know how to write her name. And she's now in third grade. But now I've gotten her there. She's not on grade level. However, we're making some progress. So I'm excited about that. So
Yes.
that imagination is so important when it comes to reading, because when you're reading, it takes you all over the world.
Yes.
You're learning things you never learned before, exploring through reading. So that imagination is so important. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes. Yes. But you definitely solidified it. So these are the things, like, this is what makes her so unique. You see the excitement when you talk about your students. And that's the one thing that I don't see too much in the classroom. Like, teachers love their kids, they're not tyrants, but they actually love their kids. But when it comes to the excitement, it just seems like being in the building, having 30 plus kids, and it's hard for you to get that excitement. But to get a tutor that is excited to A, see your kids, B, your kids are excited to go to tutoring. Not to go to, okay, they want to go to a park. Yeah, they want to go, paintballing, all that stuff. But for them to want to go to a tutoring session, so someone is doing reading, that's when you know you're making that transformation. And this is exactly what you do to your kids, because I see your excitement every time. You're like, imagination and creativity, and to see kids transform from, I don't want this, and knowing that they stick to it, all of a sudden they see the benefit of it, and then we can't stop them. That's exactly what we want. This is awesome. So for us to kind of get to the wrap up, because hey, 22 minutes, we're doing good. What are some coming attractions for you? Like, what are some things for tutoring? Like, do you have any slots open? Are you doing anything in particular, something different from maybe the upcoming holidays, anything of that sort?
I always have slots open. I'll make room to help children to read. I will. But some coming attractions, I do have one thing that, well, it's not an upcoming attraction or anything, but this is something that I've done and continue to do. If you refer Love to Read, then you will get your tutoring free for 2 weeks. And so, but they have to sign on and they have to actually attend. And so I will pay for your tutoring for those first 2 weeks. So that's something that I do for parents that refer me. And I do get referrals, and I'm excited about that. So if, with that being said, if you refer and they sign on and become a student, then you will get your tutoring, 2 weeks tutoring for free.
See, I don't know about anybody else is doing that. So if you guys want to reach out, there's 2 ways. So one is through her website. So lovetoreadtoday.com. So again, that's lovetoreadtoday.com. Actually, you know what? Let me make this more into, let me scroll that bad boy.
And Audrey, I'll also do a free reading assessment as well, a free parent consultation and a free reading assessment. So I will assess your child to see where they are, and that is free as well.
Okay, that's excellent. So you have the website on the bottom if you want to take a look and see a little bit more. Actually helping as many kids as we can out, because we know school started. And I don't know about you, I'm starting to get an increase of students. So you might want to snag her up real quick. But also, you can also take a look at her email. Send her a personal message at info@lovetoreadtoday.com. So any questions whatsoever, go ahead and ask them, because as you can tell, she's going to give you as much information as you can, because we need for these young people to build up those foundations. And trust me, that pandemic gap is real. And I think a lot of parents are starting to see that. They're starting to say, wait, and even kids. For me, the youngest I have is like in 7th grade, and he's the one that asked his mother, I think I need something because I don't understand what's going on in class. So some kids are starting to advocate for themselves, and I think it's getting younger and younger. So listen to your child, listen to your instinct, and then go ahead and get a tutor to help you out. So if you are a tutor, and just my shameless plug, and then I'm gonna be out of here. Um, if you are a tutor, especially a math tutor, and you need like a friendly place to go and to get some resources, go ahead and join my Facebook group, From the Classroom to Online Tutoring. It is a virtual community. Trust me, I tried to talk to every person that's in there. I think we got roughly like 184 right now. So we're really climbing. So if you do need a place to go, you can go to my Facebook group. But if you're a parent and you really want to get started with some tutoring sessions with Miss Denecia, go ahead. Or if you want to call her Miss D, you can call her Miss D so you can reach out. So, Miss Denecia, thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate you. I greatly appreciate the work that you're doing. And please keep striving forward because we need you.
I appreciate you and thank you for having me. I feel honored, and you continue to do what you're doing as well, because we need those math tutors as well, because without that math and reading, our kids going to be lost, and we don't want that. We want them to be
No.
able to compete globally with their peers. Absolutely. So thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for having me.
Oh, not a problem. Well, this is Two Tutors Talking, and welcome to next week. We're going to have probably just me, but I'm waiting for a couple people to respond. And you guys have a great day. Take care now.